Hello and welcome to Coffee with Cow at Learn International. My name is Sheila and I'm the Learn intern. I'd like to introduce with me today Jordon Kopreksi. He is a Learn International student alum. Hi Jordan, how are you?
Good. How are you, Sheila?
Good, thanks for being here today. For those of you that aren't aware, Cow is our Learn International's lovable mascot and she travels everywhere we go. Coffee with Cow is a podcast that aims to capture and share stories from students and international educators. Today, here I'd like to introduce the listeners to Jordan. Jordan, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name's Jordon Kopreksi. I am originally from Burlington City, New Jersey. I lived there for a good portion of my life. Then I moved to where I currently reside now, which is Las Cruces, New Mexico, about 45 minutes from the Mexico-U.S. border. I am currently working at the university where I'm getting my master's degree. That's the University of New Mexico State. I teach introductory level classes to the digital filmmaking program that we have here. It's called the Creative Media Institute. I also work as the facility manager that runs all the filming equipment. And then I am in my second to last semester for my grad program, which is a master's in public administration. Excuse me. And the reason I'm going to master's in public administration is that throughout my whole life, I've kind of just acquired a whole bunch of knowledge, and I wanted to convey and share that knowledge, not only with people I love, but also a sense of community and society. Um, so I'm hoping that after I graduate, I'm going to do an internship in Washington, D.C., kind of get my footing out there, and then eventually try to work for some type of progressive, social, loving type of project or department within, the federal entity of the United States. So here's to hoping.
So for what I know, you did a program with Learn and you studied in Ireland. Can you tell us a little bit about that program and your academic project?
Yes. So our program was 2 weeks in the summertime. I believe it was the last week of July and the first week of August of 2016. We flew out to Donegal, and from Donegal we traveled to Bumbag Harbor. And in the little town of Bumbag Harbor, about 12 to 14 of our group made 6 to 7 documentaries of the local community. Me and my partner, my filming partner at the time, we did a documentary of a county councilor who showed us his background, his life background, his family, the people he interacts with, and a little bit of overall life lessons in which kind of directed him into the public service. So that was our project. That was a lot of fun. Definitely got to travel to some of the northwestern islands off of Ireland, which was really, really cool to see the culture out there. But yeah, that was the program that we did.
What time of year did you go?
It was, yes, the end of the summer. So when we got there, I think everybody in Ireland was wearing t-shirts and shorts, but since it was a little colder than New Mexico, most of us were wearing long sleeve shirts and jeans. So we definitely stuck out. But we did get a chance to see some beautiful weather. We were lucky that I think the saying out there is if it rains in the morning, it's a beautiful afternoon. So most of the time we got some pretty good shots in the afternoon without too much rainy weather.
You mentioned that earlier when you're introducing yourself that you are in grad school right now. Can you tell me how or if this program, the Ireland program, affected your choice in going back to grad school?
It definitely affected it, but I didn't know it at the time. Obviously, when we went in 2016, that was to do filming, and at that time, my undergrad was in filming. But by somehow chance, our subject was a local, like I said, county counselor, someone that was working in the public sector. And I didn't really realize it at the time, like that was something I was going to be doing, or at least studying, 2 to 3 years later. But I was getting into grad school with the year I had off, and I was kind of just taking in all the information that I had in the recent 5 years of undergrad, 5 to 6 years of undergrad. Um, I believe, or actually, I know that our subject was the way that he conveyed information both on and off the camera. I realized that, there was definitely a stigma of public service workers that I wasn't exposed to before, definitely was exposed to public sector being slow or impersonal, and that's what we're learning. But it was definitely our subject who kind of exposed that, I guess, the new public sector, the new public administration, the stuff that's going on now needs people who are not only just passionate about themselves and the community around them, but they're passionate for their fellow human.
Mm-hmm.
So from that information, when I got into my master's program, that's kind of been my foundation of when I graduate. My end goal is to just be part of programs like he was, to just help out, not just myself and my family and my community, but to help out my fellow man. So, or my fellow human. There you go.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I really appreciate, especially, I mean, you studied abroad a couple years ago now, and now it's still affecting your choices and your attitude and your values many years later going into your career. So that's interesting, and I appreciate that a lot. I wanted to take an opportunity to share a little bit of a story with you, and I really wanted to get your feedback. So I recently went to a conference about a study abroad, and the main theme capitalized on the experience and how on your experience of study abroad and how you use it moving forward after that significant experience. And the keynote speaker used a term called SAM, which means study abroad me. So it basically means how you act, react, and make decisions while you're abroad compared to being home. So the speakers basically spoke about how to continue your SAM behavior in your everyday life back home. Do you think that you found this type of behavior in yourself while you were in Ireland? I can give you examples too if you're not quite sure what the SAM behavior is.
I think I have a pretty good idea, but if I'm completely off into left field, I hope you'll direct me back.
Okay, will do.
Home. I'll have to say that my study abroad experience, I think, it was the apex moment in my life of some type of realization that the way I was doing things before that trip wasn't who wasn't in my highest good for who I was inside. Externally, it was probably a survival mechanism that I was living upon. But going to Ireland and being exposed to a different culture, being exposed to a different climate, and a different way of life, definitely for sure. And kind of just the realization that this life that we live, there's tons of opportunity to not only do, but to reflect and see how that reflection kind of shapes our reality. So I'll have to say that the study abroad me was, I think, some way and somehow my moment of reflection in which I realized, it's definitely time to change some things up. So during my study abroad time, I was definitely more vulnerable. I think that was the biggest part, was being vulnerable and allowing myself to be okay being vulnerable. And that's, not just vulnerable in travel, but like vulnerable in allowing someone like my subject to see me, um, kind of sharing tough stories or sharing, personal life choices and whatnot, because that would make, by that sharing and vulnerability, that allowed the subject to be vulnerable and share stories. Vulnerable with my other cohorts, when we're kind of walking around the town, and we're definitely a different area. And when you're in a different area, new and different conversations come up, and that allows for sharing. And it was very easy just to be in a shell, but that vulnerability definitely helped. I think not only reflective growth, but personal growth, and definitely spiritual growth. And I didn't know at the time, but academically and professionally, some forms of growth as well. So, uh, let's see. Yeah, I think that answers it pretty broadly, but definitely let me know if there's some more information I can share.
No, that's great. I mean, you talked about how you were while you were studying abroad, and then I appreciate how you continue that into your everyday life now. Is that correct? Do you feel like you, in some moments in your life, you go back to how you were when you were studying abroad, and then you continue that type of thought process in your everyday life now?
Yes, I definitely. It's been tough, especially in the culture I was exposed to my whole life. But I spend more time now than I ever before studying abroad, uh, exposing myself to vulnerable situations that allow me to grow and some type of, like I said, some type of reflective ability, either personal, spiritual, academic, professional, and definitely interaction with other people. Yeah. So, yeah, if it wasn't for the trip in Ireland in 2016, I definitely wouldn't be in the master's program I was in now, and I definitely wouldn't have the ability to share what I share now. So,
That's great. I always say growing is thriving, so I love to hear when people say they're growing, it means they're definitely thriving in their life. So it's great. Thank you. I also actually wanted to share a joke with you, a joke that you might have heard before. And please, I encourage pity laughs if if it might be a little bit dry. But here's the joke: a study abroad returnee, a vegan, and a CrossFitter walk into a bar. I only know because they told everyone within 2 minutes. Thank you. I'd like to hear how this joke resonates with you and your lessons from abroad. In the sense of, returning as a study abroadee, and then, how do you, everyone sees the stereotypical study abroad person always talking about it nonstop. So tell me how this resonates with you.
It resonates in a few different areas. I have to say that I definitely spent about 2 to 3 months after my study abroad trip, kind of explaining, oh, this is what I learned during study abroad, or oh, I went to Ireland, the stereotypical study abroad, study abroad, study abroad. And then about 6 months later, in 2017, the beginning of 2017, I decided to make a personal life choice of becoming a vegan and then working out more. So this joke is kind of hits all three fields, which is great. But I have to say that the beginning of 2017, even with those personal life choices, it stopped becoming about, oh, my study abroad trip. It became more about sharing, like I said, those vulnerabilities. It became more about sharing the lessons and what we as a group, as the whole cohort, me and my filming partner, and then me and my subject, and then just me in general, like everything, it became more about sharing those life lessons, and less about, I guess, the significance of, oh yeah, I was fortunate enough to travel. It became more about, if I didn't do this, I wouldn't be here, or because of this, I realized, it was going to be a lot more easier to be vulnerable if I wasn't, let's say, intoxicated when I was sharing things. I learned a lot more by sharing things sober than I did intoxicated, which
Mhm.
interestingly enough, yeah, definitely learned that in Ireland. um, so yeah, I'm glad you shared that joke, because it's true. I think as a group we talked about Ireland for a good maybe year. So until the following 2017, we were still mentioning the Ireland trip as a group on Facebook and IM Messenger. But I think we've done pretty good to change the study abroad trip to personal life lessons.
That's good. Yeah. I feel like it hits home. This joke hits home with me because I learned very quickly who wanted to hear my stories, who didn't want to hear my stories, and how do I make my stories adaptable for those who didn't want to hear the stories. How do I make it become a better story and get all
Mhm.
those listeners? Because I have lots to share. I had incredible experiences, so I wanted to share it as well. So yeah, it definitely hits home with me. Thank you, Jordon, for being here. We really appreciate your time. Learn appreciates your time, so thanks so much. And then I want to thank the listeners as well. You can find Learn International on social media platforms such as LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and with the hashtag LearnINTL. This podcast will be posted on our YouTube channel, which the link will be provided on our social media platform. Yeah, have a great rest of the day to all the listeners, and to you, Jordon. Thanks so much again. And everyone else, keep an eye out for our next episode. Take care. Have a great day, Jordon.
Thank you so much. Me too. Bye.
Bye.